take a stroll through the deep, dark wood and follow a little brown mouse on a great big adventure. Escape fox, owl, and snake. Then come face to face with the Gruffalo.
So welcome back to the Chessington adventure as we look at the park, we look at the history of the park, we look at the future of the park and where the park stands now. Now we're going to have a look at the back to basics approach which the park had to take in around about 2006, 2007, 2008 and kind of taking them into the direction where they are now. We're also going to be having a look at the closing of the rides. We mentioned it briefly that some rides have closed, some more have closed since in the last sort of 5-10 years. We're going to be having a look at the introduction of some new attractions. So, you know, they haven't just shut rides, they have opened some new attractions. They may have replaced ones that people love very, very much, but they are new attractions. There's a lot of criticism from the park, so we might as well just kind of accept there's a lot of criticism from the park and address it all at once. And then we'll look at the future of Chessington. So it's 2017 now. What does the future hold for Chessington World of Adventures? We shall have a look. So as we said, we've been visiting the park since 1990. It's not something we've been doing in sort of the last 10-15 years. It's something we've been doing pretty much since the park opened. We have experienced all of the attractions that the park have opened and indeed subsequently closed or replaced. So when we talk about the rides, we're not talking about them from a perspective where we've seen a video, we've heard a bit of hearsay, word of mouth. We've actually been on the rides and we're in a position where we can say, yes, this was good, yes, this was great, yes, this wasn't so good. You know, we are doing it from a point of view where we've experienced the actual attractions. So let's have a look at the back to basics approach which the park have taken. Now, unable to get thrill rides into the park, that fell with Thorpe Park. 2001 saw the construction of Colossus for opening in 2002 when the Vampire was changed to a floorless train. Also saw 2003 and a sharp kind of increase in the thrill rides at Thorpe Park, whilst Chessington went backwards. So what Chessington have done is gone back to their roots of being a zoo. Now, whilst it was flagging a bit in the early 80s, which is the reason it's became a theme park, the zoo itself is still widely a reason why people come to the park. The animal experience, the enclosures which they have here, some of the shows and presentations which they have are absolutely excellent. Now the zoo is enhanced with Trail of the Kings, which also opened the same time as Vampire in 2002 and has been enhanced several times since. So that's kind of your gorillas, your tigers, your lions and all your big cats are down there. That's an amazing walkthrough, always very, very popular. It was enhanced by the opening of Wanyama Village and Reserve, which is the African village. They used to have creature features there, which was a little bit sort of alpaca, rabbits, sheeps. You know, it was a bit of a mismatch. Now it's African-based animals, leads on very nicely to safari. It's also got kind of a lookout point as well, where you can see the giraffes, see the zebras, the ostrich, and others of the animals which they have in the park. So the animal experience has been greatly enhanced over the past few years. And that's kind of going back to the basics of the park. The park was a zoo, so making it a theme park, ripping all the animals out, the park had kind of taken a step back the other way. Ride-wise and theme-wise, 2010 saw probably the biggest change in recent years, and that was the opening of Wild Asia. So the bright colours, the IP of Beano Land disappeared from the park altogether, and Wild Asia was born. Wild Asia, again, animal kind of themed, has the Lorikeet Lagoon, so it also enhanced the zoo facility as well as the rides. So the rides that were maintained in Beano Land are back for Wild Asia, completely rethemed, the area completely rethemed, and it was joined by Cobra. Arguably the park's last great thrill ride that came to the park, and that was in 2010. Wild Asia was then followed by Zufari area, Zufari ride, and the kind of the African expansion. So Zufari came to the park in 2013 and offers an off-road safari drive of the plains. The plains at Chessington, the greenbelt over there, wasn't used, so it was a proper expansion for the park. And whatever your thoughts are on Zufari and whether or not it could have been better or not, and yes, it probably could have been, it's a great attraction, and it's a great attraction because you get to sit in with your family and go and get close to magnificent animals like giraffes and rhinos and flamingos and various other ones as well, which are there along the way. It links very nicely to the village. It also brought flying jumbos in as well to kind of complete the area. You know, could the ride be better? Yes, the finale is arguably terrible, very kind of really don't understand it, but the rest of the ride, given the space that they have at Chessington, they've really made the most of it. You know, they're never going to have a massive drive like Disney or Busch Gardens do. They just don't have the space for it. And you know, it brought rhinos back to the park for the very first time. Never been here. Giraffes came back, rhinos for the very, very first time. So they are really looking forward and really kind of heading back to the zoo mentality. And this was a massive signal by the park, because this also kind of sparked the all year round opening as well. While Safari isn't open all year round, Wanyama Village, the Penguins, the Trail of the Kings, the Sea Life Centre, which arrived in 2008, is all open all year round. So you can visit on weekends during the winter. They host various events during the winter and half term as well. But the zoo park is always open and always very busy. Come rain, shine, or even snow, it's always very busy. So once the zoo started to gain traction, some of the rides were really starting to show their age, and you know, recovering from years and years of, you know, real heavy use and kind of propping the park up. Safari Skyway, Bubble Works were two of those. They were kind of may have received a mini retheme and kind of a few updates along the way, but they were really kind of showing their age. And Dragon's Falls more recently has also been in that boat as well, where the area Mystic Keys has probably been the best kind of enclosed themed area in the park. It's now starting to show its age, but that is getting a refresh for next year. So let's review some of the rides, and we're going to review the rides which have changed, the rides that are kind of fairly original that have changed over the past sort of 10-15 years. So we're going to refer back to the map here. So we've had the map out already. It's going to blow away this time because it's quite windy all of a sudden out here. So the Beano Land rides. Really, you know, no one's going to miss the Beano Land rides as they were. They've come back to the park, they've been rethemed, they look fantastic. Gruffalo River Ride Adventure. Now this was never going to be a popular one. So the Bubble Works. The Bubble Works showed some massive age, and it shut last year, 2016, in preparation for the Gruffalo. Now then, nothing is going to touch Professor Burp's Bubble Works. I don't think anyone is going to be silly enough, including the park or even the management, to say that, you know, Professor Burp was kind of not the main attraction back in the 90s for the family. However, he did disappear in 2006. He didn't disappear in 2016. And the Bubble Works, however catchy the music, however wonderfully coloured it was really showing its age in 2016. Now the park have had IPs in the past, so you know, when we heard the Gruffalo were coming, it wasn't really a shock to us. It wasn't a shock because it's a massive children's book. It's a massive adventure. There are TV programs, there are, you know, merchandise sold right the way through the land on the Gruffalo, and they have done an amazing job of the ride. I mean, the ride has not looked so good in there, particularly with lighting and effects, since the original Bubble Works. Now, Professor Burp has gone. People need to let go of Professor Burp. He went 11 years ago. We are now onto the Gruffalo. Bubble Works needed a retheme, and I have to be honest, compared to the last Bubble Works, Gruffalo is definitely a step up. Now, Toadie's Crazy Cars. This was actually rethemed quite a long time ago. Used to be the Old Crocs Railway, and it is only a powered car ride. It's got to be ending an era of it, kind of at the end of its life now, let alone back then when it was Old Crocs. Doesn't really have much of a theme. The theme is Wind and the Willows. It is tired, it is worn. Was it better than Old Crocs Railway? Well, yes, because that was sort of sponsored and themed by the AA. So for your average visitor, really held no nostalgic at all. Now, Wind and the Willows was very popular back when it was rethemed. I have to say, you don't really see much of it these days. I don't expect the ride to be around much longer, but is it better than the original? Yes, it is. We then have Tomb Blaster. Now, this is another one. This is another one where it's a major contentious point, and it's one that they kind of hold against the park, the enthusiasts and the major visitors alike. Now then, it opened as Fifth Dimension. Now, Fifth Dimension was incredible. We did go on Fifth Dimension. It was well ahead of its time. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. The storyline, the animatronics, and everything about it was well ahead of its time. In terms of interactivity, it had none. It really didn't. You'd push a button that lit up, a bit like Atlantis on Legoland. It really does absolutely nothing. So whilst it looked good, the story was odd, about a TV repair guy, and you know, the longevity of it clearly wasn't there. So that changed to Terror Tomb. Now, Terror Tomb was in the height of the park wanting to be a thrill park, and you know, it was quite scary in there. It was certainly scary in there for the younger audience. Was it better than Fifth Dimension? Yeah, I would probably say it was. The singing mummies at the end probably did it, in fairness, let alone the rest of the ride. Now, that was changed to Tomb Blaster. Now, it did need an upgrade. It had various little minor tweaks when it became Forbidden Tomb, but it needed an upgrade, and Tomb Blaster was its upgrade. Interactive gun shooting ride with lasers, complete new sets, large animatronics which kind of stick out on you, and you know, it looks really good in there. it's had another retheme since. Now, the retheme since has made it a lot brighter, it has made it a lot more colourful, and it has made it arguably less scary than ever before. Now then, was Terror Tomb better than the Fifth Dimension? Yes, it was. It was. Is Toon Blaster better than Terror Tomb? Possibly not. But is it more interactive? Yes, it is. Does it have a longer life ahead of it in its current state? Yes, it does. Does it need some tweaks, particularly around the sound and some of the effects? Yes, it does, but it's certainly not the lost cause that everyone's making it out to be. People want to go in there, people want to shoot things, children want to go in there, they want to shoot things, and it wants to be a competition with the family. It's just not something you could have on Terror Tomb at all. And you know, people need to realise that it's not just them rewriting it. I could rewrite Bubbleworks over and over again, the original one, where maybe I wouldn't the Gruffalo. However, I know there are many families and many children and many people, much more than me, that would rather be riding the Gruffalo over and over again with their families than what I am. So it's not about me. And it comes much the same with Toon Blaster. It's not about the minority, it's about the majority. So then we have the Scorpion Express, formerly the Runaway Mine Train. Now, Scorpion Express was rethemed. The actual ride was shut for a year, which was, you know, kind of in the height of when the park really didn't need a ride to be shut for a year for refurbishment. It probably didn't need that, but the rock work around Runaway Mine Train hadn't been maintained, much like the ones around Dragon's Falls. And to be honest, it's not supposed to be there forever. It'd been there for a long period of time. It had corroded away. It was dangerous. It needed to be removed. Now then, as a park, you know, as an operator of a park yourself, would you replace like for like, or would you try and improve on it? You would try and improve on it. Now, the rock work looked good. In 1987, it looked good. You'd be darting in and out of rocks, and it just looked amazing. It made this little coaster look fantastic. However, come sort of 2010, 2011, did it still look good? No, it didn't. And it's not just because the rock work had kind of worn away a bit. It just didn't look good. It looked dated. It looked messy. It didn't really hold a theme to it. There was nothing inside the tunnel. It was a little bit boring. So Scorpion Express was born. Now, Scorpion Express has stripped everything back and added new elements to it. They include fire, smoke effects and water effects in the kind of scheme of a massive Scorpion. The queue line's been themed a little bit better. You don't bang your head on the steps anymore going down to Runaway Train. It's just overall a much better experience. Now, for people to turn around and say it's not better than Runaway Train, seems a bit silly. You know, the arguments that it's got flat backboards and it hasn't got 3D housing, what does it matter? You know, unless you're looking at it from behind, how would you know it's not got 3D kind of housing on it? What you see is what you get, and it looks really good. I have to say, it's a thumbs up from us. It's a thumbs up on the retheme. It's not just about, again, kind of that, you know, would you rather they just let it rot away, or would you rather they actually try and improve on it? On this occasion, they improved on it, and I think they did an amazing job. Now, the final one is the carousel. Now, the carousel's been completely removed and restarted. Now, the carousel held quite a lot of memories again because it had some lovely paintings on it from Chessington over the years. And to be fair, none of those rides were particularly here anymore, with the exception of Black Buccaneer. It was a pretty standard carousel. It looked like a fairground ride. It didn't really fit a themed area of the park anymore. And the one that's open this year, the Adventure Tree Carousel, again looks amazing. Whether or not you think it looks amazing or if it looks generic is irrelevant. You know, how you can say an animal-themed carousel when I can't think of another one in the country looks generic, it's just beyond me. So again, a massive thumbs up. The Adventure Tree Carousel, much better than the original carousel. So now here comes the really unpopular part of this. Now, we have been huge supporters of Chessington, and we own and run the largest Chessington website in the country. It's got the resource, it's full of content, full stop. There's no one else that can beat us. I very much doubt there's anyone that's going to be able to touch us on it. We supply pictures to the park, we supply maps to the park, and we have all the original content. That's not to say we're sitting in their pockets. They don't really do us a lot of favours, if we're being honest. We sometimes get invited to some press things, but, you know, contacting them can be a bit of a nightmare. So don't get me wrong. We're not going to stand here and say they are perfect, because they are far from it. However, I cannot understand the sheer hate for the park, particularly from enthusiasts, because it's not the visitors, and you can say it's the visitors, but attendance has been up 6 years running, and it's been up considerably as well. You know, we're not talking 1%, we're talking up to 10, 13% year on year. So the park are doing something right. Whether you think they are or not, they are doing something right. But if you ask an enthusiast about the park, they will say the rides are run down, the throughput is slow, you know, they're missing all their best ones. Well, what's this based on? Seriously, what's this based on? There are going to be some people that hold on to the nostalgia. You know, there are many enthusiasts. Some of them run Chessington websites that quite honestly don't deserve to set foot in the park because of the way they speak and treat the park. You know, if you don't like the park, don't run a website on it. Seriously, there's no point in coming into the park and moaning about their decisions. Their decisions are made on business grounds. This is, after all, a business. However much I would like Professor Burke to be sitting down there now, he's not. It's been replaced. And that's it. You know, times move on. Alton Towers have replaced so many rides over the years, and no one really holds them kind of personally responsible like they do Chessington. You know, that includes famous rides like the Corkscrew and the Black Hole, and yeah, people would just say, oh well, they were uncomfortable and oh, they weren't that great, and look what they were replaced with. And you kind of have to do the same here. Look what they've been replaced with. As we said, the park does need some work. Where we're sitting now on this green, you can probably see Black Buccaneer in the background. This is earmarked as being a future development for a new roller coaster, and I really hope it is, because the park does need some better rides, to be honest. It needs some family thrill rides like Cobra. You know, maybe an air race wouldn't go astray here, or something a little bit more daring than Griffin's Galleon or a Sea Storm type ride. But, you know, the park is not as run down as what you think. And here goes the most controversial point as well. This is still the best themed theme park in the UK. I said it. And I've said it for a couple of reasons. There are some great parks bringing up the rear, and you know, Paulton's Park gets a massive shout out with Lost Kingdom, Peppa Pig World and Critter Creek, but they still have a travelling log flume. They still have two fairly new rides in Cobra and Magma and Edge even as well, that just sit there on a bit of grass with no theme whatsoever. You know, you don't really get that here, with the exception of maybe Africa. The rides are quite immersive. They're quite well themed in themselves. They're quite well themed into an area. Thorpe Park has some wonderfully individual themed rides. As an area, it can't pull it off. You know, Lost City is just Mess City, Old Town is just Derelict Town. It can't pull it off. And Alton Towers as well. People may think, oh, Alton Towers. You know, CBeebies Land is a real disappointment. It's just painted old wooden buildings. If they were going to do that, they should have ripped it down and completely started again. There are some nice new things in there, but it's not up to the scratch of Thomas Land, just a few miles down the road. And you know, X Sector, what is that about? You know, the Dark Forest is a lazy theme. Forbidden Valley, you know, when you take Galactica in it, again, is a mismatched theme. And you know, Jewel, quite nice on its own, but nothing else there. So, you know, I don't think Alton Towers is up to the scratch that people want to think it is. Chessington still is. Chessington is still the best themed theme park we have in the UK. Will it remain like that? Possibly not, if Paulton's Park have anything to do with it, but certainly at the moment, it is. So when you take the themes into account, some of them are excellent. Wild Asia, even Mystic East, and that's going to have a refresh, look excellent. Forbidden Kingdom still doesn't look too bad. It does need some touch-ups, but don't get me wrong. You know, there are areas of the park that do need looking at. The core is there, but it just needs a little bit more to get where it is. Now, there have been some ride changes, some we've discussed, and there's been some ride removals. You know, we look at Safari Skyway, people say, oh, Safari Skyway's gone. Well, that's great, because it gave you a look of the top of a sea life centre, the side of a hotel, and an overgrown area on Trail of the Kings where you couldn't see the animals. So I'm not surprised the ride went. It commanded long queues for very, very little in the way of views. You know, since the aviaries were removed, and since the Sea Life Centre came and the Children's Zoo was there, or the zebras were there, it's really not provided any views for a good 5 years before it actually closed. You know, we've talked about Runaway Train, we've talked about Bubbleworks, we've talked about Carousel and Toon Blaster. For us, generally, they're a much better move, and it's great to see the park developing. However much you think that some of the rethemes haven't been up to scratch, and they may have been forced upon the park, they've been done. And you know, the families are speaking in their droves, and they are heading to the theme park and enjoying their days out. So what is the problem with Chessington at the moment? Well, I have to say, probably not a lot. They see the attendance, they see it going up year on year, they see the people kind of coming to the park and having a good day out. You know, there are a few complaints, there's complaints everywhere. You know, we've left bad reviews, we've left good reviews. At the end of the day, we're a paying customer to the park, whether we have annual passes or not, we're paying customers, and we deserve to have a good day out wherever we go. There's not a lot wrong with the park. Yes, it could be better. All theme parks could be better. I cannot name you one perfect theme park in the UK. Not one. But Chessington still seems to command the most criticism. You know, the park are no longer living in the 90s. They have moved forward. And you know, the people that used to visit the park kind of need to move forward with the park. Rides have aged, rides have gone, rides have become irrelevant, and it's time to move on. And that's kind of what we're doing at the moment. You know, we would like to see this area develop where we're sitting now. We would like to even see free trains back on the Vampire, because it is still the park's major draw, and we'd like to see some of the theme return, you know, to the Vampire. Updates to existing themes. Forbidden Kingdom could do with a little bit of a spruce up. You know, the Africa theme needs to be completely ripped out and changed, where they put the Gruffalo stage. I'd like to see the show coming back rather than just a projection showing other bits and pieces. Does it spoil my day out? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. I can get on these rides, I can have a good day, I can experience some of the great rides that were from the 90s, as well as some of the up-to-date attractions that they have now. You know, Creepy Caves was a bit disappointing when it closed this year. It is a Halloween attraction for 2017, but it was part of the zoo lineup and part of the normal lineup too. So as far as we're concerned, the future of Chessington is bright, and it's really kind of only just started. The problem is that people that support the park need to get back behind the park. You know, it's not the 20th century anymore, we're in the 21st century. Times are moving on, and I think it's key to remember that Thorpe Park are going to have this problem very, very shortly. Where Chessington had their boom in the 90s, Thorpe Park had their boom in the noughties. And you know, it's become apparent that Chessington is in fact turning a corner over the last few years, whereas Thorpe Park are heading the other way. So within a year, 2 years, we'll be making this again about Thorpe Park, as they went one way and are now heading back to the same way that Chessington are going, down the family route. We do hope you've enjoyed this two-part. It has been a lot of talking, it has been a lot of kind of us sitting here, but you know, we kind of need to get the point over. We are big supporters of the park, and we want you to be as well. If you haven't visited the park and you're commenting kind of on how bad the park looks, and you don't like the fact the rides aren't here anymore, seriously, come and give the park a go. If you can on a quiet day, all the better, you'll get on everything. But come and give the park a go. We are thoroughly looking forward to Tiger Rock in 2018. It's going to breathe a new lease of life into the Mystic East. And let's see what the future holds for Chessington. But we'll be there all the way. Thank you for joining us.